inlet or superior aperture of thorax. So you can see here mainly this is a manubrium sternum. So actually this is a part of thorax which we are seeing from the sidewards. So if you see from the sidewards, this is a manubrium sternum and the anterior side, and the posterior side of course we have our thoracic vertebra, right? But you can see the position that the manubrium sternum is somewhat lower position when compared with the thoracic vertebra, because it's like this, right? It's somewhat like this. So this manubrium sternum upper border is exactly at the level of, you can see, T3 vertebra, and the manubrium sternum lower border, you can see, it's exactly at the level of T4 vertebra. So T1 vertebra is somewhat like higher when compared with the manubrium sternum. So we have some features like, you can see this starting, this inlet, this is inlet, this is a plane of inlet from which many structures pass. We are going to see them. So this inlet is kidney shaped, you can see somewhat like kidney shaped, and anterior border, anteriorly you have upper border of sterni, and posteriorly you have superior surface of body of thoracic vertebra, and the sides you have first rib along with the cartilage. So this is the first rib along with its cartilage, like here it attaches the first rib along with its cartilage, and the plane is downward forward with 45 degrees. You can see downward forward with if you draw a angle you will get here 45 degrees angle, and the manubrium is 3.7 centimeters below the posterior part. So you can see this, the manubrium is 3.7 centimeters downward below the T1 vertebra and exactly at the level of T3 vertebra. And the Simpson's fascia. Simpson's fascia is triangular shape. Now we'll see the Simpson's fascia. So here you have a Simpson's fascia, also called suprapleural membrane. So you can see it's a triangular in shape, and its apex is at the transverse process of C7. So this is the apex, this is the base of suprapleural membrane. So its apex is attaching to the transverse process of C7 vertebra, that is cervical vertebra number 7 of our vertebra prominence, which is the last part of our neck, right? And its base is to the inner border of first rib. So this is a base, it's attached to the inner border of the first rib. So inside the first rib the base is attached. And next, the flatter tendon of scalenus minimus. Actually this suprapleural membrane is achieved, it's derived from the scalenus minimus muscle, which is a flattened muscle, and it is a along with its pleural muscle. And this scalenus minimus muscle is also called as pleuralis muscle, and they mainly provide the rigidity. So actually when you are inspiring or expiring, for every inspiration and expiration your thoracic cage is always moving, but always our thoracic cage is not coming near to the neck because of this presence of suprapleural membrane, which maintains its constant so that it will not allow the movement of thorax during respiration. And the inferior surface of, so for example, if this is a superior surface, so now we are seeing the same suprapleural membrane from sideward. So if you see it from sideward, this is the superior surface and this is the inferior surface. So in the inferior surface you will see the cervical pleura is fused with the suprapleural membrane. So this is suprapleural membrane. So you can see this is the cervical pleura which is getting fused with the suprapleural membrane, and at the same time next to it you can see the apex of the lung. So this is the apex of the lung, and superiorly you can see some subclavian vessels, like you can see subclavian artery and subclavian vein, and on the side you can see the first vertebra, first rib. So next, coming to viscera. So actually now we'll see the main inlets of a trachea. Thorax. So due to the thorax, what are the main structures which are passing inside? Let us check out. So mainly first we have our viscera like trachea, and so you can see this is a trachea, and next you have our esophagus. So this is esophagus and this is trachea, and next you also have lung epiphysis with pleura. So you can see this is a right lung and left lung, it epiphysis along with its pleura of course, and you also have the thymus remains. So you can see these are the thymus remains. So remember the main four, for of course we know trachea is present near to the thoracic region, so of course trachea will pass through it, and next esophagus trachea. So you can remember like windpipe, food pipe, all are going esophagus, trachea, thymus, and also lungs. Of course, in the thoracic cage, lungs only are present, lungs along with its pleura. So these are the main viscera which are going. So after the viscera, now we will see the large vessels. So we have mainly the brachiocephalic artery towards the right side. So you can see right brachiocephalic artery, where it is. Yeah, so this is the brachiocephalic artery. You can see this is like large vessel, right? Among this diagram only you can find out this red color. So this is a large artery, that is a brachiocephalic artery, especially on the right side. And also we have left common carotid artery and left subclavian artery on the, this is the left common carotid artery, and also you have the left subclavian artery. These are the two bigger vessels which are going on the left side. And you also have right and left brachiocephalic veins. So you have brachiocephalic veins. You can see this is the left brachiocephalic vein and this is the right brachiocephalic vein. So these are all the bigger structures which are passing, bigger vessels. So once again let us revise. The viscera. Viscera means, of course I said, windpipe, footpipe, esophagus, trachea. Next I said T, you can remember like TT. So means after trachea you can remember thymus, which is a remnants of some remains of thymus, trachea, esophagus, lungs. Of course lungs are the main thing in the thorax, lungs along with its pleura. So these are the viscera. What are the large vessels? So the large vessels are mainly brachiocephalic. Remember, brachiocephalic artery only going on the right side. So brachiocephalic artery is only on the right side, but brachiocephalic vein is on both sides, left and right side. And also you have the biggest one are the left common carotid artery, and also you have the left subclavian artery. So these are the left side structures, mainly left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery. On the right side mainly you have the brachiocephalic artery, and of course right and left brachiocephalic veins. So these are the bigger structures. So mainly the bigger structure, only the main word is brachiocephalic, because you have brachiocephalic vein on two sides and you have brachiocephalic artery on the left right side, and especially on the left side you have common carotid artery, and also you have the subclavian artery. So these are the main structures, large vessels. Next let us move on to the smaller vessels. So on the right and left side we have internal thoracic artery. So we'll check out the internal thoracic artery. So we can see this is internal thoracic artery and this is a right internal. So on the same side, it will be like on the same type of diagram on two sides. So internal thoracic artery are the smaller vessels, and also you have the superior intercostal artery. So we'll check out the superior intercostal artery here. Where is that superior intercostal artery? So actually in this diagram we don't have this superior intercostal artery, and next you have the posterior intercostal vein. So you can see this is the first posterior intercostal vein. So this is also on right and left side, and next you also have the inferior thyroid veins. So these are the inferior thyroid veins. So you can see these are like small structures. So what are the small structures? Mainly internal thoracic artery, right? Internal thoracic artery, superior intercostal artery, posterior intercostal vein, and inferior thyroid veins. Next let us see the nerves. So you have the right and left side, the phrenic nerves. You can see here the right phrenic nerve, and here also you will have somewhere the left phrenic nerve. So I'll show on the one side, you can imagine the same on the left side. So we have right and left phrenic nerve, and you also have vagus nerve, right and left vagus nerve. And next you have the sympathetic trunks, right? So you can see this is a sympathetic trunk on the both side, and you also have first thoracic nerve which join the brachial plexus. So remember, first thoracic nerve which joins mainly brachial plexus. And next coming to muscles. So only you have three muscles. You can remember them very easily because you remember them with the sternum, like sternohyoid, sternothyroid, congus colli. So like they are related to sternum, like that you can remember sternohyoid. So you can see here the sternohyoid and sternothyroid muscles. So these are sternohyoid and sternothyroid, and one more is congus colli. So where is it? Congus colli. Yeah, longus colli. Sorry, longus colli. So these are the three muscles which are passing through this inlet of thorax. Now we'll check out the outlet of thorax. So just by diagrams only you can complete this anatomy parts. So outlet is broad and upper to the abdominal cavity. Of course the outlet is between the diaphragm and the abdomen, right? So this is upper to abdomen, broad, and anteriorly it has infrasternal angle and between two costal margins. So remember, anteriorly infrasternal. Of course here in the inlet you have anteriorly sternal angle, or you can say sternum. but here it's lower, so of course infrasternal angle. So anteriorly it will have infrasternal angle, and posteriorly it will have the inferior surface of body of 12th vertebra. Of course it's the last part, right? So it will have T12, and on sides it has a costal margin by 7 to 12 ribs cartilages. Of course the ribs cartilages will be there here on the sides. So what are the large openings? Mainly we have three large openings here. One is aortic opening, other is esophageal opening, and the other one is vena cava opening. So of course in aortic opening, as a name you can see aorta. So of course aorta will pass into its aortic opening, and also aortic opening is actually osteoepineuritic. It's a lower border of T12 vertebra, and it mainly transmits aorta, and also it transmits the thoracic duct, and also it transmits the azygous vein. So the three structures pass along with aorta. You can remember AA, aorta, azygous vein, thoracic duct. And next we have esophageal, which is also a large opening. So this is esophagus, right? It's a large opening where it's a muscular diaphragm. It's at the level of 10th thoracic vertebra. Here esophagus open, of course, and also vagus nerve open. You can see left vagus nerve opening here, and also the esophageal branch of left gastric artery. So the left gastric artery, you can see esophageal accompanying veins. So this is a left gastric artery, and also esophageal veins open here. So in esophagus, of course esophagus will open, and also left vagus, left gastric artery, and also the esophageal veins. So next we have the next largest opening is a vena cava opening. So the vena cava, you can see inferior vena cava. Of course inferior vena cava will pass into it, and also you have your right phrenic nerve. That's it, right phrenic nerve branches. So it is actually at the level of 8th thoracic vertebra. So these are important. The vena cava opening is at the level of 8th thoracic vertebra. The esophageal opening is at 10th thoracic vertebra, and the aortic opening is at 12th thoracic vertebra. So this 8, 10, and 12. So two difference, 8, 10, 12. And next we'll see the small openings. We have crus, which is a small opening over here. You can see the left crus of diaphragm and the right crus of diaphragm, right? So this is the crus. So this is small opening greater than lesser splanchnic nerve. You can see lesser splanchnic nerve, and also the greater splanchnic nerve pass by the right crus of diaphragm. So these are the greater than lesser splanchnic nerve, and left crus have hemizygous vein in additional. So left crus also will have all this, and also it will have the hemizygous vein in addition. And next we have the sympathetic chains. So sympathetic trunk behind the medial arcuate ligament, also called as medial lumbocostal arch. So you can see this is the medial arcuate ligament. So behind this only we have the sympathetic trunk. So it is also called as medial arcuate ligament. Sorry, medial lumbocostal arch. And also you can see the subcostal vessels and now also pass behind the lateral arcuate ligament. So they are called as lateral lumbocostal arch. So if they are traveling, you can see sympathetic trunk is traveling behind medial arcuate ligament. So they are called medial lumbocostal arch. And the subcostal vessels and nerves are traveling behind this lateral arcuate ligament. So they are also called as lateral lumbocostal arch. And you also have superior epigastric vessels along with the lymphatics. Superior epigastric vessels along with their lymphatics, right? So they are between especially the scaphoid and costal cartilage number 7. So the gap between them is called as Larry's space, or also called as foramen Morgagni. So on two sides you have the superior epigastric vessels. So in between them the space is called foramen of Morgagni, or also called as Larry's space. And next we have the 9th costal cartilage, which is a musculophrenic vessel which pierces the diaphragm. So you can check out, this is a central tendon here where many small veins pierce and pass through it. So this is all about the outlet of diaphragm. So we have learned about inlet, water coming to the diaphragm, and water getting out from the diaphragm. So now we know all the structures. Now let us move into the surface landmarks of thorax. So mainly we have the suprasternal or jugular notch. So you can see this is a suprasternal, or in the name itself you can see suprasternal means above the sternum. It's also called as jugular notch. It's exactly at the level of T2, that is trachea can be also palpated here. And next you have a sternal angle that is between manubrium and the body of the sternum. So this is a sternal angle which is between T4 and T5 and also second costal cartilage. And from here the only we have many features, like we can start counting the ribs from here, and also it's a second rib, right, and it separates the superior mediastinum with the inferior mediastinum, because at this angle only, for example this is body here, right, so like this till above it is superior mediastinum and here it's a inferior mediastinum. And also ascending aorta ends and begins, so ascending aorta ends and also begins so at the same point, that is in the sternal angle. And next you have the descending aorta beginning. Descending aorta also begin from here. And next you have trachea. Trachea is the one which is dividing into principal bronchi only at the level of this sternal angle. And azygous vein arch, that is the root of right lung and open into the superior vena cava. So azygous vein open into superior vena cava at the level of sternal angle. And the pulmonary trunk divide into pulmonary artery below this level, and thoracic duct crosses from the right side to the left side in this level, especially after reaching left side it will reach of course T5, and left side at angle, especially at the at this sternal angle it stays left side. It means that the right side to left side it crosses at T5 level, but this thoracic duct ends up in the left side of this sternal angle. And the upper limit of base of heart, the base of heart upper limit is also the sternal angle. And also we have cardiac plexus formation also in the sternal angle. So we have many points. And next we'll see the skiffy sternal joint. So skiffy sternal is nothing but we have here scaphoid process. So this joint is called skiffy sternal joint, and this skiffy sternal joint is like about 7 to 10 costal cartilages are between this costal margins, and we have the infrasternal or subcostal. This is also called as infrasternal, or we call it as subcostal angle, and the angle depression is equal to epigastric fossa minus floor, that is equal to scaphoid process at the level of T9. And next you have the costal cartilages like T2, which is a sternal angle, and at T7 you have upper part of infrasternal angle, and the middle clavicular plane, in between this clavicular furrow, there is a middle clavicular plane. It's a lateral border to rectus abdominis and linea semilunaris joint at 9th costal cartilage, and the ribs scapula lie over number 2 to 7 ribs, and 10th rib is the lowest point and the third lumbar vertebra. The thoracic vertebrae points, mainly you have C7, you see here C7, which is also called as vertebra prominence, because it has prominent spine, longest spine, and C7, and all the beginning of this thorax can be palpated at the C7 at the posterior medial line, and T3 of the spine you can see here, this points here. So T3 is a spine of scapula, the T3, and T7 you can palpate the inferior angle of scapula, and the nipple in males is in the 4th intercostal space, that is 10 cm from mid sternal line, and apex heart is like 5 intercostal space, 9 cm from mid sternal line or medial to the mid clavicular line, and the trachea is suprasternal notch between two clavicles, and the mid clavicular, or you can see lateral vertical or memory plane is a vertical plane which is mid inguinal point to the tip of 9th costal cartilage, and the mid axillary line is between two folds of axilla, and the scapular line is vertically along the inferior angle of scapula. So we have some clinicals like we'll check out this diagrams here. So you can see this is called as angle of rib. It is the most weakest point for the rib fractures, and paraesthesia or abnormal sensations in the ulnar border of forearm. And also you can see the wasting of small hand muscles which are mainly supplied by T1. This condition is mainly seen in paraesthesia, where the 7th rib is attached to the C7. So for example you can see this is 7th cervical vertebra. So to this 7th cervical vertebra, the first rib or the cervical rib forms and it attaches to this. So because of this there are some abnormal formations which will lead to wasting of small muscles of hand. It is mainly seen only in 0.5% of people. And next, coarctation or aorta narrow. So for example, if there is coarctation, you can see the aorta has become narrow, or it is called as coarctation. The posterior intercostal artery enlarge. So these are the posterior intercostal arteries which are enlarging, and they give the collateral circulation. So because of this collateral circulation, you can see the notching. The notching will be seen in the ribs because they are enlarged now. And we also have thoracic inlet syndrome, which is subclavian artery and first thoracic vein arch at first rib and pulled or pressed by cervical rib, or variation of insertion in scalenus anterior muscle. So it will lead to simple vascular problems or neural or both. So this one is here. So actually here in the thoracic inlet syndrome, the subclavian artery and it's a first thoracic nerve. These both are arched at the first rib. So because of this, there is pulling or pressing by cervical rib and variations of insertions in scalenus anterior. So because of this, the symptoms may be either vascular symptoms or neural symptoms, and sometimes also you can see both symptoms. So this is all about our complete overview of our thoracic introduction. Next we'll move on to the bones and joints of thorax.